So I have this at the bottom of my emails. I talk about it often to folks who know me well, but this word Ubuntu. But we are who we are because of others. None of us gets to where we are by ourselves. It's a recognition of interconnectedness and that and interdependence. And so I'm wondering, as you think about the course of your life, the broad course of your life, who are some of those people? And it could be people, it could be books, it could be music, it could be art, different. But what are some of those influences that have influenced you and contributed to the formation of the person that you are today? Like, who are some of those folks or experiences or things for you that have
Yeah.
contributed to forming who you are?
Yeah, brother who really, recognized who I was and my call to this work. I was doing other stuff in Kansas City. I was on the streets. We was up late at night. We were doing something to Juvenile Detention Center. We were doing some businesses and connected the church with it. But a brother named Emmanuel Cleaver, who became the first African American mayor of Kansas City for 2 terms. Now he's a congressman. But man, he did the wedding for my wife and I. But Rev was a
Wow.
dude, man. He was a dude who was like, he just truly defined meeting you at where you are to take you where God would have you to be. And I never saw that growing up. I never saw that as a reality. So I was like, wow, this dude talk to this guy. I'm watching him talk to this guy. This guy mad. Rev just chill, talking to him respectfully. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. And just did that with one person to the next person. Then with me, with my journey, and walked him. And it was never judgmental. He was never condescending. Wasn't perfect, man, but he was able to be one that gave me strength of what this could look like. And great speaker, great orator. So I would say Rev would be that guy in that space, man. I would think I love Muhammad Ali because Muhammad Ali was both kind and straightforward with contentious situations. And to the degree that lost his boxing opportunity and then got it back. And so when you look at the greatest, I think that is the greatest, not only for boxing, but for what he did to inform, alert, heighten African Americans as a voice that was needed that could challenge those in authority, those who had that privilege. There's a great quote I read the other day. It says, when you're accustomed to privilege, then equality feels like oppression.
Yes. So true. So true. And we
Yeah.
see it. So true. Mhm.
So true, man. So true. So I read, um, man, Muhammad Ali, Mike Dyson and I are good friends. And Mike and I met each other when he was a DePaul Ida B. Wells scholar. He was teaching at DePaul one time and just met at a restaurant together with another friend of ours. And Mike is brilliant. Also, Mike is approachable and Mike is just real. So sitting down with him and then journey with him for all these other years in life. And he had me substitute for him to do some training at one location, one time, but being able to just see him in some spaces where somebody would snap on him because of his position and thought around hip hop on a certain thing at Howard University. And Mike said, man, I really appreciate how respectful you were with that. So even though the guy disagreed with everything Mike was saying about the aspect of hip hop, Mike gave him his flowers, gave him some love, and then I said, wow, that's a way to handle that gracefully and to be able to say, I learned something from a dude, man. Thank you. I learned something from you. I hold my position. It was just those little nuances like that, man, watching that, man. And I would say it's been like, there's a few friends as well here locally in Chicago who have just been people to look up to in those places like that. I think that there's some other great women who have held it down too. Fannie Lou Hamer, who's a
Mhm.
goon, Assata Shakur, like just the reality of the dream where it was bigger than their immediate experience. Fannie Lou Hamer was speaking in that great quote, I'm sick and tired. As she was speaking, what took place with her trying to vote and all the stuff they beat her in the jail, president came on while she was publicly giving this on TV and it just came up with a random, I need to break the news thing up to say something. He did his thing on Lyndon B. Johnson or somebody, but they like he stopped and as soon as he knew her stuff was over is when he stopped. So they wouldn't be
Mhm.
seen. But little did they know they kept playing it, they kept recording it. And so later on you see the whole thing. Just courage to do that, man. So having to bring that up, our ancestors in those spaces like that, to remember their courage in those spaces like that. We always say conformity is the opposite of courage. What we say, folks who didn't conform because what was it? There was too much at risk if they did, and there was too much in them that they could not standing ground in spaces in that way. So those are a few folks, man, that I know personally, some folks that don't, but being able to have the kind of wisdom along the way.
And you remind me of Mike a little bit. Like if I had known, I'm like, oh, y'all, you family, or y'all grew up together, or something. But y'all can't, yeah, y'all remind me a little bit.
He from the
Yeah,
D.
yeah,
He from
yeah. You from Detroit? Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. And so that's so cool. I really love that story. But I'm also seeing a connection to what you were sharing earlier too, around just recognition that our commitment, our conviction has to be stronger than the current moment or greater than the current moment that we might be in. Because you brought Fannie Lou Hamer is another one. You brought up Muhammad Ali, all the things speaking truth to power. And I also think he had a certain comedic way of doing it too. But he's no, I'm telling y'all, some of the folks who laugh in the background, but no, no, this is the reality, the lived reality, and it was getting through. But the ability to stay true to the message and who you are, and in spite of, and in the face of the consequences, only to have, and you said something similar to this earlier too, like only to have like years later, people coming back and, oh yeah, this is so incredible. It's like, yeah, this is great what you did. You're so brave and all these things. But it's like in the moment though, having that, being connected and committed to that sense of purpose and that work to where, hey, willing to stay and to keep going. So I appreciate your storytelling around that. Now, there's another side of this question, or other half of this question, and I ask folks, and I say, like, other folks that you mentioned, you could either be specific or just talk broadly. What would you say to them or about them in terms of just speaking to gratitude for their impact on you, their contributions to your life, and just the way you see the world or whatnot? But what would you say to them or about them in terms of just thank you?
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, like thanking them for transferring the knowledge that they've learned from the streets, from the hood, from the books to the universities, to make it plain for the people that there is oftentimes, Mike sometimes can mess with you with all the things he's saying when he's rambling, but he'll bring it back home with some biggie quote or something. But
Hmm.
in it, in the sense that there is sometimes gaps between not just the haves and have-nots, those on the margins. Sometimes you can experience being disenfranchised and see it as normalcy and
Yeah.
just welcome that normalcy, almost expect it to happen. So therefore you don't have no highs and lows, but don't know you're being railroaded. Why are they not teaching cursive in the schools anymore? I didn't learn cursive, so I don't know. So you just accept it. And when they need a kid to sign that contract for that house, that car, you can't sign cursive. You can somebody else sign for you, and now becomes another. So I say all that because these cats, for Muhammad Ali said, "Why am I going to be a con? They ain't the ones calling me nigga. They ain't the ones arresting my people. They ain't the ones keep me from eating in the front." See, the just brilliancy of bold. He's saying that to people that
Hmm.
already knew that they already knew they was wrong with that, right? But to see through that, sometimes when you have been oppressed for so long, and again, it comes from normalcy that you don't feel bold enough that you can even say that
Yeah.
because or you feel another level of pressure is going to come to you
Yeah.
if you stand on your 2 feet. So those folks who could discern the time and they communicate that, both Muhammad Ali, Emmanuel Cleaver, Mike Dyson, Fannie Lou Hamer especially, and
Hmm.
Assata Shakur, the reality of teaching now to pass that on. Like how and can we? Because some cats can discern the time, but everything's conspiracy. It's y'all.
Right.
You see how he got that pen in his left hand? He's really right-handed, Joe. So he means the left side of the moon. Come in, give me something that makes some sense. We can fight against it and talk about it. Then there are some who got real insight and perspective so that we can really make some moves to fight against that. So that teaching the generation, though they did in the system in of itself, may not necessarily welcome that level of teaching because they know that system going to be exposed in that space. So that's my flowers for these leaders in this way, man. They're giving, it's a quote by Nelson Mandela did for his speech when it came out. It was not that we're inadequate. We are more powerful than beyond measure. When cats speak in those spaces, it's, man, I knew that was going on. That is giving you permission to do the same. And so
That's right.
that I really appreciate by those ancestors in that space.